So, what makes a timeline for a rehab realistic? Like, how do you really know if something that you're being told is reasonable, right? Like, unless you actually do construction, like do the hammers and the screwdrivers and everything yourself, like we're really guesstimating it, right? Or we're going off what we learned in some class somewhere, or we're listening to what maybe our friend says, or maybe we talked to three contractors and they all said three different answers and we just don't know. So, how do you really know how long something is going to take? And the answer might be a little different than you realize. I talked about in another video the power of schedule. And what really will drive how long it takes typically comes down to a few things. First of all, schedule. How well that contractor is organizing themselves, their business, their resources. That will give you the greatest visibility into anything because the more organized they are there, the better chance what you need done is going to happen in a timely manner. I don't know of anything that's bigger than that because if they are organized, things will move and maybe faster than you realize. If they are not organized, you can be sure it's going to take longer and longer and longer and longer. Okay, so their ability to be organized and schedule will be your greatest indicator. Okay, now a lot of contractors will talk about, I have all these crew members, right? And this will be the second thing. You can ask, hey, how many plumbers do you have? How many electricians do you have here? Like, if they only tell you they have one, that's probably going to be a red flag. Okay. Not because there's anything quote unquote wrong with having one, but the reality is life happens, things happen, and it always seems to happen when you least need it to happen. I bet you can relate with that. So you want to work with contractors that have multiple of each of the trades. The more they have at their disposal, the better. Now, the question is, if they tell you they have three electricians and four plumbers and five HVAC guys, is it real, right? And then if you start going down to vet that, that might be a bit time consuming. So there's a balance in there. Like you can do some vetting, but are you going to go out and vet 100 subcontractors for a large project? Probably not. I mean, you could, but that's going to be very, very time consuming just to validate this one GC. So you got to figure out in there, and a lot of times it's just judgment of character. Take a look at older jobs that they've done, not the ones they did last week, but the ones they did a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, okay, as well as maybe a recent one, so that you can get a feel for how much success they've had doing these projects and talking to the references for those projects. A project from a year ago, right? Like the emotion's usually worn down. You'd call up that owner, hey, how'd it go? Well, they said it was going to take 6 weeks. It took 7. Okay, well, it took a hair longer, but a week is not, that's generally pretty good. Okay, so talking to people that are not super close to it, some time has passed, that will give you a really good indicator. The third thing is going to be materials for your project. Like, what are the materials you need for this project? Are they available? Now, a lot of materials tend to be readily available because you can always go to a Home Depot or Lowe's, but maybe your job is in a small town and Home Depot is not 30, 45 minutes away. If your project is not near places where there's materials readily available on a moment's notice, you can expect that project's going to take longer. Now, on the flip side, if your project is close to 3 Home Depots and 3 Lowe's and a bunch of Ace Hardwares, that doesn't necessarily mean it will move faster, but there is less excuse, right? Because it's not going to be a material problem unless you're using very specialty type stuff, like people order cabinets from like Europe, for example, right? Or they'll get some marble or some stone from outside of the country, right? Or maybe you're doing a project on the coast, but the materials you need are like on the other coast, right? Literally across the country. These things happen. So anytime you have specialized materials, that's going to slow things down potentially, unless see object one, right? Point one, schedule, right? A good contractor will know, oh, you need this material. We need to order that 6 weeks before we actually need it, right? And again, the more organized they are, that will handle the material issues uh, in advance a lot better. And the last piece of the puzzle is if you have a lender involved, how quick are they? Sometimes lenders become the bottleneck because they want to inspect the work, which they should. That's a good thing, right? But then they're slow. They're slow to get out there, or worse, whether they're slow or not, they'll send somebody out who's really not qualified to be inspecting. Don't think because a lender sends an inspector, that inspector is qualified. That is not true. I have met more than my fair share of inspectors that I thought to myself, I'm not so sure this is what you're supposed to be doing. In fact, one of them told me once, I don't know why this lender keeps calling me, like I'm an appraiser. So a lender was calling an appraiser to do work as an inspector. This is not good. This is not smart, right? So sometimes that will create your problem. Okay. And then, of course, lastly, there's Murphy's Law, right? Sometimes just bad luck happens. So, whatever your timeline is that you're given, let's say you're given a 3-month timeline for a good sized project, I always like to add at least 25%. Okay. Sometimes I'll even joke, whatever they tell me, I'm going to double it. Now, of course, you don't want it to be doubled, but the reality is some contractors just are really good salespeople and they mask how long stuff is really going to take, not because they're trying to be mean, but because they're incredibly optimistic. Remember, what do people do? We love to underwrite the best case scenario. Contractors are no different. They love to tell you the best case scenario. So, whatever they tell you, add 25% or even double it because you want to plan for the worst case scenario, not the best case. And then when it takes less than the worst case, awesome, we're doing good. And if we meet the best case scenario, throw a party, like go out for dinner with the spouse and celebrate that because that's a big deal. So, hope you found this helpful. Plan accordingly, but start with that schedule. I cannot emphasize that enough. An organized, scheduled contractor solves so many problems. It still boggles my mind even after all the projects we've done. So, hope you enjoyed this. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll see you around.